You'd think getting a product from the factory floor to a customer's hands would be simple, right? Well, it's actually a journey just packed with hidden dangers. So today, we're going to dive into how businesses can and, frankly, must protect those goods every single step of the way. So imagine this. Your company has just perfected a brand new product. It's all packaged up, it's ready to go, and it's valuable. But between your loading dock and the final customer, there's this whole world of potential disasters just waiting to happen. So the real question isn't if something's going to go wrong, it's are you prepared for when it does? Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll uncover some of those hidden dangers. Then, we're going to follow a product straight through the warehouse, out onto the open road, and into the wholesaler's hands. And we'll wrap it all up with a practical toolkit and show you why having an expert guide is, well, pretty much non-negotiable. Every single stage of the supply chain has its own unique set of interconnected risks. Doesn't matter if you're in warehousing, transportation, or wholesale, your operation is only as strong as its weakest link. A failure at just one point can set off a really catastrophic domino effect. To really see these dangers up close, we're going to track a single shipment of high-value frozen foods on its journey. This is going to show us exactly where things can go terribly wrong, and, more importantly, how you can build a fortress of protection around it. So our frozen foods journey begins, not on a truck, but just sitting inside a warehouse. You might picture it as this safe, quiet holding area. But in reality, some of the biggest threats are already lurking right inside those four walls. The top reasons for loss in a warehouse are a mix of the obvious and, well, the sneaky. Of course, you've got big events like a fire or theft, but then you have the silent killers, a critical piece of equipment failing, or spoilage that ruins an entire inventory overnight. And trust me, those can be just as financially devastating. So picture this. It's a scenario that happens way too often. A fire breaks out, maybe because combustible materials were stored too close to something they shouldn't have been. And to make it worse, the goods are stacked so high that the overhead sprinklers just can't reach the base of the fire. And just like that, your customer's product is gone. Okay, so how do you shield your business from that kind of fallout? Two types of coverage are absolutely vital here. Property legal liability, that steps in because legally those goods belonged to your customer. But just as important is goodwill coverage. It gives you the funds to help repair that customer relationship. Because losing their trust, that can be way more costly than losing the product itself. All right, let's get back to our frozen food. Here's another threat just lurking in the cold. The complex automated refrigeration system has a technical glitch. The temperature starts to creep up, and an entire shipment worth thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars, is about to become completely worthless. And that is exactly why equipment breakdown coverage is so essential. It's critical. It doesn't just help pay for what can be incredibly expensive repairs. It can also cover the income you lose while your operations are totally paralyzed. It turns a potential business-ending catastrophe into a manageable problem. Okay, our frozen food shipment has somehow survived the warehouse. Now it's time for the next stage, and maybe the most perilous part of the journey, transportation. The moment those warehouse doors close and that truck pulls out onto the open road, a whole new universe of risks just opens up. So, you've done your homework, you hired a logistics partner, legally they're responsible for the cargo now. That sounds great on paper, but it brings up a terrifying question. What happens if there's a total loss, and their insurance policy has a gap, or it just isn't big enough to cover the full value of your goods? All of a sudden, their problem becomes your financial nightmare. This is where something called contingent cargo coverage comes into play. You can basically think of it as your safety net's safety net. It's an optional policy that protects you, the shipper, at the exact moment your carrier's primary insurance fails. It is the ultimate backstop. And listen, the dangers on the road go so far beyond just a simple traffic accident. You could become the victim of a pretty sophisticated fraud scheme where a carrier uses fake documents to steal your shipment. Or what about this? What happens if the cargo's lost and you can't even collect your shipping fees? You need very specific coverages to handle these very specific and very real threats. Wow, okay. Against all odds, our frozen food has arrived at the distributor. We are so close to the finish line, but the product and your business are not safe yet. The wholesale environment has its own unique blend of challenges that can still derail the whole thing. And this distinction is really critical. On one hand, you've got direct threats to your inventory. I mean, a simple power outage at the distributor's cold storage could spoil your entire shipment. But on the other hand, you face these indirect threats to your entire operation. A fire at a key supplier hundreds of miles away could literally choke off your ability to do business, even if your own building is perfectly fine. The good news is there are tailored solutions for this. Stock spoilage coverage, that's built specifically for that power outage scenario. Contingent business income is the policy that protects you from the financial fallout of that fire at your supplier. And logistics extra expense helps cover those costly workarounds, like rush shipping from a new vendor, just to keep their doors open. So far, we've mostly talked about insurance, right? That financial safety net for when a disaster strikes. But being truly resilient isn't just about reacting to failure. It's about building a smarter, stronger system that actively prevents losses from happening in the first place. The key here is taking control with practical risk management. That means using software to digitally monitor every single piece of inventory. It means storing products intelligently with better fire suppression, like in-rack sprinklers. It's about being prepared, having spare parts on hand for that critical refrigeration unit. And it means staying alert 24/7 with monitored temperature alarms and backup power systems. You know, when you look at all of this, the different stages, the maze of specialized coverages, the proactive strategies, it's a lot. It can be completely overwhelming. This isn't something you can just figure out from a manual. To navigate this world effectively, you really need a partner with deep, specialized expertise. Look, the goal should never be just to sell a policy. It's to build a true partnership. It's about having an expert in your corner who lives and breathes this industry and is genuinely committed to making your business stronger and more resilient. And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. Real, meaningful protection is this powerful combination of comprehensive coverage and expert advice. It means having risk specialists who can actually walk your facility, identify your unique exposures, and give you actionable recommendations based on what they've seen work across your entire industry. So I'll just leave you with this one question. Now that you've seen the chain of risks lurking at every single stage of this journey, take a good, hard look at your own operation. Is your supply chain truly built to withstand these challenges, or is it just hoping for the best? In this business, the difference between those two is everything.